Okay, guys, we are deep in the witching hour. Goodness gracious. Uh I've been just like really literally working. How y'all doing? It's High Priestess Jamila. And I wanted to come and talk about why it can be extremely dangerous for a witch. And you know what? I am going to make the difference. I'm going to make the distinction between what we call a authentic witch versus someone that is just practicing and is not actually a witch. And I really hate to say it like that because I don't encourage that. But I do think that a lot of us witches came from a certain, not even bloodline, but soul line. It doesn't really have anything to do with bloodline per se, unless you have like, you know, um, certain, unless you have like, it depends on different families, but that's why a lot of you witches will be born into families that it's just constant chaos, with that situation because you have the soul of a witch. You're not possessed. It's just that you come from that soul line of witches, and it is quite possible for you to be born into a family where you're different. It sounds good and it's nice to think, and it is kind of like that, like what you see in the movies, to where there's a family, and your grandmother was a witch and your great grandmother was a witch and your great 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 great, and then everybody was just witches. Okay, hey, good morning, sis. But it's really not like that in every case. It really isn't, and I think that it's like that in a lot of cases. I think it's like that in a lot of cases because I'm gonna tell you something. If you are marked, if your soul is marked, you are going to live and breathe every single day in witchcraft. And this is even before you start practicing. And so a lot of witches have reported um there's certain things that is very distinctive of witches, that one being having um kind of like amnesia when it comes to your childhood. And the reason why is because it's not that you don't remember your childhood. uh it's because you kind of were like in and out as you were growing up. Your gifts were developing. If you were somebody that got sleep paralysis a lot when you were a child, that was not necessarily a psychic or a demonic attack. That was your gifts developing. And the development, the growth of a witch is going to be very, very different than the development of a regular person, because there is a difference. You know, there was one thing that I was going to say about, oh God, being a witch, and I lost it. But I'll get it back because it was another thing besides the sleep paralysis. Oh goodness. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. So, it witches are different, and you don't always have to be born into a family of witches. It's not always like that. In fact, what you'll find is that you don't typically fit in with your family. People are angry at you with no good reason. People hate you with no good reason. Well, there's a reason, but you don't understand it. They don't even understand it really. The only thing they can do is blame it on you, because what else can they do? And so, you and then race has nothing to do with it. For example, a lot of witches that are very similar to me grew up not feeling a part of their race. That's another big sign. You just kind of felt like an outsider. You didn't fit in anywhere, really. But especially if you're black, one of the things that is very common is, colorism. If you went through a lot of colorism, whether or not you're dark or light, if you're a dark skinned witch that has, like, you're a natural witch, you may have been picked on a lot because of the color of your skin. And then the same thing if you are a light skinned black. Okay. You may have been picked on a lot, and it may have been colorism going on. Okay. And then that goes on, that's also for if you're a white person and you have blonde hair versus brown hair, or red hair, or blue eyes versus brown eyes, or green eyes, even. Green eyes is one of the signs, and of course, there's black folks that have green eyes, hazel eyes. It's certain distinctive marks and circumstances that get bestowed upon witches. And it's something that you have to embrace. You have to cope with it. um you have to deal with it. And yeah, there have been witches that have been killed. I see a lot of witches, just looking at ordinary news stories of women and men who were murdered, and it was because they were witches. And it's just because it has a lot to do with certain gods or certain entities that believe that they are a true god and that they rule over everything. And so this leads to my discussion about Jehovah, and gods like Yahweh, and gods that hate witches, gods that hate, period. Okay. um and hate has its place, believe it or not. Just like every other sin that they call a sin, it has its place. You know, in order for you to go to war with somebody, you have to be experiencing and feeling the energy and the essence of hate. Um, And so, but I think that when it comes to organized religion, specifically, these specific gods were very specific, and they were very uh, monumental, and they were very powerful in their influence over the masses. I mean, to the point where there have been, I mean, millions, of murders, that these gods murdered a lot of people on this planet. Okay. And so where it comes in when it comes to relationships, um, I do know that there are certain gods, and two of the main ones would be Yahweh, Jehovah. A lot of people, there's a debate on whether or not they're the same person. I personally think that they are two different people because I have picked up on the energies of both of these gods and I recognize them as different. Jehovah, when he, when I have encountered Jehovah, Jehovah literally hates me to the point where what he tries to do to me, what I've sensed, what Jehovah has tried to do to me, a 5'4" woman, is he always tries to squeeze my heart until it explodes. And then Yahweh just tries to put me in chains. So that's specifically that, throughout the years, those are the experiences that I have had whenever I am in the presence of someone that has been marked by these particular two particular gods. And the reason why I bring up Jehovah specifically is because um, Jehovah's energy is a lot more misogynistic than Yahweh, like 1,000 times more. Like I am utterly convinced that Jehovah is the God of the Bible. Okay. And Yahweh could be in there too, because and yeah, some people debate that it's the same God, you know what I'm saying? But in my experience, when it comes to Jehovah, he has an extreme hatred for women. He despises women. He despises his mother, which more than likely is a cosmic mother. I don't know why, but what I found is that when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses, and men that have been marked by Jehovah, what Jehovah will do is Jehovah will watch over those men. And Jehovah has a certain plan for his people, period. And if he considers you to be his, he's going to do whatever he wants to do with you. In fact, I have seen people possessed by Jehovah, just like I felt like I've seen people possessed by Yahweh. I'm going to get into Yahweh too. Jehovah, his energy is anti-love, and that's all it is to it. It's all about love for him, and that's it. You like if you go and you read about stories about Jehovah's Witnesses, or if you look at the videos about Jehovah's Witnesses, Jehovah expects for you to abandon your children. Jehovah expects for you to hate people for certain reasons, and Jehovah literally tears down and destroys the fabric of families. I mean, it is like honestly, I'm just being honest, okay? And so you as a witch, Jehovah automatically hates you, period. Now I know that there's some people that are like, well, I grew up Jehovah's Witness and I'm a witch. Yeah, because that's because you were indoctrinated and you were baptized probably into that religion with him. And even though you were baptized, he still sent you through hell. It didn't matter. He showed his hatred. He still shows his hatred for women specifically and girl children specifically. He hates male children as well, but he gives them a pass because they are male. But if he sees a male that is receiving too much love, or if he feels like a male loves a woman too much, or is being loved too much, he gonna tear that thing down. Now, the reason why it is dangerous is because many of Jehovah's followers, people that were influenced by Jehovah, those that have not renounced him, those that have not renounced him, and I'm sorry to say that the God that you have to pay attention to is the one of your parents. So, for example, if it was Jesus, then it was Yahweh. But if you were Jehovah's Witness, then it would be Jehovah. And these are the men that Jehovah marks. Usually have a predisposition towards domestic violence, murder of women, rape. Not saying that every Jehovah Witness rapes people, but there are a lot of stories. There's been a lot of what they call whistleblowers, or people talking about how if you grow up in a Jehovah's Witness household, and you get raped, they don't report it. You have to go before a council and you have to talk about it. And it's a process that they go through that basically tells the woman that it's your fault and you need to go sit down. And if you tell somebody, you're going to get beaten, you're going to get shunned. The council or the hierarchy of Jehovah Witnesses are going to stalk, attack, berate you. These people are expert stalkers. They stalk because of their religion. They stalk because their God tells them to. I said, tell them to do. That's why they stalk. Mainly, a lot of the religious gang stalkers are either those marked by Jehovah or Yahweh, and they're and they and yeah, you'll say to a stalker, you'll say, why don't you live a real life? And it's because they are literally being used by that God to bring about misery and destruction, and even sometimes death, in specifically with witches specifically. Now they do it to other people, and yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses, they do have witches that are born into their family. I was telling you guys about a babysitter that I went to when I was a child, and they were Jehovah's Witnesses. And I won't reveal their names because I actually went to school with their daughter. I went to medical school with their daughter. And, of course, I don't take it out on her because me and her were cool when I was in school. You know what I'm saying? But I don't, for their protection. But I was systematically abused while I was at that babysitter, and they were definitely Jehovah Witness. And it was almost like I was a kid, so I wasn't going around saying I was a witch. What is that? Looked like a little some kind of white silvery thing. Was, yeah. Um, so I was systematically abused. And yeah, gods like that, they will either themselves or either a projection of themselves. They will cause this possession of those that they have marked, and that's why they black out. That's why they commit crimes. They do things that they have no memory of. And it is because of that God. Now, if you are dealing with, that's why it's extremely important for you as a witch when you are dating somebody to ask them, hey, what, just casually in conversation, hey, what religion did you grow up as? And if they say Jehovah's Witness, it's gonna have to automatically be a red flag. Even though you may like that person, y'all may have a thing for one another. And you can't really ask them, well, did you renounce that God? You can, those are not those are not things that you're going to ask on a first date, right? Or when you first meet that person. But that's what you want to know. And if he's still a Jehovah's Witness, run. In particular, Jehovah. Yahweh is a little bit more lenient, but Jehovah will torture you because he doesn't like women, and he's very sneaky. Okay, he's very sneaky, very conniving. Okay. Now, if he says, oh, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, but I took the path of paganism and I renounced that God, then you may be able to work with him, but you still need to watch his behavior because they can quickly slip into madness. However, if he says, oh I was raised Jehovah Witness, but I took the path to Jesus, I would still give him the side eye because that's still Jehovah. A man that you witch, listen. A man that has not renounced those gods or is not willing to is always going to be a danger to you because his and you know what, if you're dealing with that, there are specific rituals that you have to do to stop that God from hurting you, because that God will destroy your life because you're a witch. And it doesn't matter if you have it. Listen, you can say, oh, I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. You can be a witch and say, oh, Jehovah, I convert to you. He doesn't care. He still doesn't like you. He still does not accept you. Jehovah is not going to accept you if you are a witch. Because especially, I'm not talking about, there's some people, hey, there's a little witch in everybody. So yeah, you can be a witch and do spells that might take 10 years to work or 7 years to work. But we all know that the experience with a witch that is the soul of a witch, like her soul resonance is a witch, is going to be different. So Jehovah is not going to care. He sees who you are. He can sense it, and he still hates you. And you're going to experience pure hate. You're going to feel it. And if you give up your power, it doesn't matter. Even if you submit to that man, he's still going to punish you because you are a witch. Jehovah's gonna punish you because you are a witch. And this is something that witches are gonna have to accept. Because you're different. He can be a witch. The male counterpart, he can be a witch. He can do whatever he wants. You add a Jehovah's Witness man that works with Jehovah, and you add witchcraft to it, then he becomes a warlock and he becomes your enemy. And that's all it is to it. And he would have to renounce that God. That witches have married, because Jehovah's Witnessing is not, it's very different than being born a witch. It's basically a parent, it's basically a child coming into the world. Yes, Jehovah sees the children coming into the world, and then the parent accepting it and then pretty much selling the kid out into it. And so that's how you get marked. Okay. Yeah, there have been witches that have married Jehovah's Witnesses, Christians. Yeah. But that man had to go through a ceremony, and it's usually a ceremony that is going to be performed by a high priestess, either a high priestess that has a coven in the flesh, because many of us high priestesses, we have covens in spirit, or it's going, he has to basically denounce that God. Otherwise, you're going to watch that man go through possession all the time by that God. And most, let's face it, most men, um, they're difficult to, they're already programmed to be afraid of witches. So yeah, in the event that that man wants to commit to you, or and at the same time accept who you are and say, I'm giving up that God for you because I love you that much, then that is when you can have your special ceremony. Witches are not supposed to marry in a church. That is blasphemy. Ask anybody. It's blasphemy. Ask any witch. Witches are supposed to preferably, was it the oak tree? I think it was the oak tree, some kind of tree. I'd have to look it up because I forgot. But there's a specific tree that witches would get married under, or it would have to be somewhere out in nature. You witches ain't supposed to get married in no church. Okay. And it is because not only are you committing blasphemy and you don't even know it. So that's why it's kind of silly for people to get married young, because when you're young, rarely do people even know who the hell they are yet. So when you get married young, you don't know. And you get married in these churches and you're all excited. And then you wonder why you cursed. You wonder why things are going bad in your life. So anyway, um, he would have to give up that God, and he would have to give it up. He would. And I don't see where there would be a problem. I mean, unless he were codependent on the Kingdom Hall Church or something, um, to where he, is, some, and again, They will stalk. Um, if your parents decided, oh, I'm gonna go and join up, get ready to get stalked and watched and harassed. And a lot of parents will join later in life. It's absolutely the worst thing that you can do to your children. Uh, Converting specifically to Jehovah Witnessing. It is awful and horrible. But that does come from a witch's standpoint, a witch's perspective. Are all women witches? No. Can all women perform witchcraft and kitchen witchery and folk magic? Absolutely. Because there's energy in all things. But a witch is very different. And this is male or female, but specifically with Jehovah, he don't like you. Jehovah don't like women. Okay, I don't care what the story of Jehovah is, or well, Jehovah had 5,000 wives, and that I don't want to hear it. He don't like women. If you are female gender, okay, it don't matter if you're a witch or not, but he has an extra, 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 extra hatred for witches. It's innate. So he would have to renounce that, because what Jehovah will do is Jehovah will he will attack you. He will attack a witch. Okay? He doesn't want you near the men that he's marked. He doesn't want you near them. And as long as those men are under that stronghold of Jehovah, he's always going to have a way in. And let's face it, a lot of men are arrogant. They're arrogant, and they're not going to listen, and they're going to say to you, you know, whatever. I don't, you ain't supposed to be practicing that witchcraft anyway. It's funny when they say that, because do you know how many witches there are in this world that don't even light candles? There are a lot of witches walking around that don't practice, don't need to, don't want to. It's just a witch. Now, just because you practice doesn't mean that that makes you less of a witch. That means that you enjoy the art of witchcraft. You enjoy creating, but it's still an innate ability that you have, and you have it. You know that that's what you are. Okay, or that yeah, that's what you are. It can be very dangerous. Um, Jehovah can be very threatening to your mind, your body, and your spirit. And he will try to do all that he can to punish you for being a witch. Okay. So you can't do it. If that man is, a lot of y'all love hard. Y'all love hard. And I totally understand that, because I love hard too. But you got to love yourself. And if you are a witch, stop hating yourself. There's a lot of witches out there that hate themselves. They hate the fact that they're a witch, especially when you're young. If you don't know you're a witch still and you're young, more than likely you don't have that hatred. But if your mama is a witch and she's telling you that you're a witch, then a lot of times you may kind of shy away from it. you'll shy away from it, but you're still a witch because you were born of a witch. More than likely, if you're a witch, you're gonna give birth to witches. So all your children are witches. And it's a built-in misogyny when it comes to when it comes to Jehovah. He's got a built-in misogyny towards women, period. But when you're a witch, it just and you can't please them. No matter what you do, you can't please Jehovah. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen at all. Okay, it's not. And and so that's why a lot of women that are married to Jehovah Witnesses, a lot of them get divorced. It depends on the personality. Or if you're a witch, you probably ain't gonna never marry that man. Okay. Because he's probably gonna be like, he's gonna have the traits of Jehovah. So that's why a lot of y'all be, running around here. Y'all be like, he don't want me to win. Yeah. And it's a spiritual thing. It's a religious thing. Even whether or not you know or are aware of being a witch, or if you're not a witch, that's where that comes from. Now, I do know that Jehovah, he is constantly trying to get people converted. So even if that man was not raised a Jehovah's Witness or had it in his family anywhere, Jehovah is constantly trying to get people, especially men, but he's constantly trying to convert people. That's why you see them going around with their watchtowers. They will literally damn near break into your house. They'll break into your house. I remember one time I got up, went downstairs at the old house on Charter Way. I went downstairs and it was one of those watchtowers. You know how they stick it to the outside of the door? They literally pushed it inside of the door. And I immediately got rid of it and put it in a dumpster. Immediately. Immediately. Because, it's a curse. Okay. It's a curse, and so it just is what it is. When you're looking at religions like Christianity and Catholicism, the Yahweh typically is a little bit more lenient, but all the same. Okay. Same difference. Same difference. And when I say the difference is that uh Jehovah won't give you shit. Yahweh will at least give you some welfare and some nigga trinkets. He'll at least give you that. The Christian God and all of that, they'll at least give you that. Those of us that follow Lilith feel as though these are false gods. And a lot of people are afraid of that, and that's how they grip people in fear. So, same thing, a Christian man could possibly marry a witch, but she would have to renounce being a witch. Whereas with Jehovah, you probably gonna die shortly after you marry that man. Or either he's gonna end your life. Jehovah believes in putting women and girls to death. Okay. Whereas if you're a witch, yeah, you could marry a Christian man, but you do have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, which isn't that difficult, but a man can't just go, like, if he's Jehovah Witness and he converts to Christianity, he still has to tell Jehovah, like, hey, and you have to be very honest. It's all about honesty. Otherwise, you'll have all this shit going on and you don't even know where the hell it's coming from. And you be like, damn, is it me? Yeah, it's you, because you a witch. So you'll be Christian and married to that man, and you may not even be practicing. And you wonder what the hell is going on. Or here's the one thing: being raised in a certain religion, being baptized into a religion, but then when you get older, you don't really go to church, but you still were indoctrinated, you were marked, you were touched by that specific God. So a lot of people will go out into the world and they will still be touched by those specific gods, and they'll be wondering what the hell is going on. Is because you're not serving that God. Well, I'm a good person. Why do I have to serve that God? Because you were given over to that God. I was given over by who? Your parents. They gave you over to that God. Most women don't really like religion because it is very sexist, but there are some women. Here's what I don't understand. And so let's talk about this real quick. Women that are religious, period. Let's talk about that. The question is why. It's clear that women are hated by both of those gods. Is that not clear? You don't even have to be a witch, you can just be a woman. So that's just what that is. That right there. Okay. Two of the main religions, well, three: Christianity, Jehovah's Witnessing, and then Catholicism. Um, so women are just like cattle, essentially, to be eaten. In fact, I found those gods to be very vampiric in nature, to where I felt like I was being eaten by those gods. Okay. So if you're a witch, you need to take heed to that. And that's why that man is doing what he's doing. And those gods are very specific. They know what bothers you. They know what makes you tick. That's why a lot of the times, you'll see these, and I call them false marriages, because you'll see, you'll get married to this man, but then he'll cheat on you with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, or Susie Q. Okay, he'll be cheating, and then also, um, you know, it'll be a more so of a loveless marriage, because you're pretty much simply the wife, and that's it. And you have a role that you play, which is raising his children, so that the children can be given over to that God. And that's simply what it's about. Okay. It's a very lonely thing for witches. And it doesn't matter if you practice or not. It's not the spirit of loneliness. It's just it is what it is when you're a witch. And if you have a man that is not willing to give up his cloth, and let's face it, the reason why men don't want to give that up is because they believe that it gives them power. When in reality, they're just like everybody else, giving themselves over. They're giving their power over to those gods. So, that is the reason why a lot of men either die alone in nursing homes, or, they die in a shady hotel, by themselves. And it's those specific gods that create the competition. Those gods created the competition between man and woman. They created the division and the chaos and the confusion. You know. Now, if you're a witch, a lot of witches will say, "Well, I submitted to him," and it doesn't matter. Those gods hate you. In fact, I like to look at those gods as an alien invasion on the earth, because witches are connected to the earth whenever you get through. Yeah, we're connected to the cosmos as well, but we have a connection with this earth. We do. Doesn't matter if practice to where you do planetary stuff, astrology, you still have a connection with the earth. In fact, a lot of you natural born witches, being that probably like what? I think it's down to like 70 something percent of the world worships these gods. Um, that's more than likely the reason why you have issues and trouble with men, and why you've had issues and troubles in your relations with men. Okay. Anyone got any questions? Y'all been awfully quiet here lately. Jehovah got a chokehold on y'all. Uh-huh. I Jehovah has been torturing me since I was a kid. Respectfully, I don't like Jehovah. Respectfully. Okay. And it just, it's a scary thing for women sometimes when you look around the world and you are seen as prey. And a lot of people like to compare that to nature and animals, but it's different because we're human. We walk on two legs and not all four. Did we evolve from monkey primates? Hell no. I don't believe that. So I'm not into the Darwin theory at all. That's just a theory, which is okay to have a theory, but I don't believe in that. Now, we evolved from something, but I don't believe. Well, I could be speaking from a witch's perspective, though. Okay, I'm speaking from a witch's perspective. Some of you may believe that, and that's fine for you to believe that because maybe that is what you evolved from. But for me, that doesn't resonate with my soul. Okay, that I evolved from and you know what? A lot of people have science has done a good job of studying it, especially when it comes to babies, because babies they crawl on, they crawl before they walk. These babies these days are walking and not even crawling. They're literally switching the stage of crawling to automatically walking. And they're standing up when they're first born. Okay, the children that have been born the last 3 or 4 years, and we can definitely call that some kind of evolution. But I believe that simply the reason why babies crawl before they walk is because of the strength in their legs. They have to build it up after being held for so long. Even though babies kick their legs, and that gives them plenty of exercise. Um, but I don't believe the whole theory because they're convinced of it. Some people are convinced of that because babies crawl, and it's that that's what monkeys do. Monkeys crawl well into their adulthood, though, so it's not the same. Okay. Um. So anyway, I guess it would depend on what your bloodline is and what your soul is, but I don't believe that for anybody. I believe that whatever God is that created us, the design was perfect. The legs, the arms, the feet, the freaking fingers, the head, the toes, all of it was created. And when you look inside of the human body, it's so complicated. It's so complicated. It's so intricate. Okay. So that's pretty much what I wanted to tell y'all. Oh, here's another thing. Ooh, thank you, Spirit. So you know how when you get with these guys and for years and years and years you feel like you're stuck to them, and you feel like there's some kind of soul tie, right? That is the same thing. A lot of people say, oh, well, it's the devil. It's the devil. It's Lucifer. It's Satan. Mm, no, it's the same thing. I found that, and it doesn't matter how long ago, like, even if in the last 3 to 4 generations, your beau or your man or your husband, even if his family didn't practice that religion, he has taken, especially the firstborn sons, he has marked and said, these are mine. So, as a mother, I have an issue with that because I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? No, this is my child. And so, Jehovah and Yahweh, the whole thing with Yahweh saying that every firstborn in Israel is his and all that stuff. So it's very sacrilegious, religious what I'm talking about. But, um, that just, I think that people hate witches automatically because we are automatically born sovereign to that. They hate that. And there are many gods, various pagan gods that are protecting witches. So, throughout the years, it's been this war, which is why, when they, when they, because they did murder a lot of witches, even though there was a lot of witches that went, they hid out in the church and they disguised themselves or whatever. Um, you know, there was still many, many witches that were murdered because they were witches. Okay. The only difference is that society has seemingly gotten more civilized, and the more civil we get, the more angry that God gets, that God does not like for us to be civilized, you know. But you got people that go to church every Sunday and they call to that God, they invoke that God, you know. And I didn't on Sunday of this week, I forgot to do my ritual. I think every witch every Sunday, and you got to find out, you know, when they worship. But you know, you got to somehow mark your house, your or you know, to where they can't get in. Okay, because they at church invoking those gods, usually on a Sunday. Okay, so you know, and they keep invoking these ancient gods who really is just tearing their asses up too. Don't make no sense, you know. But that's what they do. We have to share an earth with them, don't we? we 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 have to share this space with them. And so, you know, thank the goddess for the pagan gods, because I'm telling you, all of us would be dead. Okay, we would all just be gone. We would all be corpses. There would be no earth, you know, to speak of. So anyway, that's pretty much my discussion. It looks like you guys are quiet as hell. And y'all ain't gonna say nothing to me. Ain't nobody speaking to me because of, you know, Jehovah done came through with his damn wrath and shit. You know, and I just call to Lilith is what I do. You know, okay. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this discussion. Yes, I do have the ability to marry people, but it's not because I'm a minister. Um, what I can do is, especially those of you witches that are in love with these men that came from that, then you know there's certain ceremonies that can be done for that man to uncross himself, untie himself from that particular uh, deity. Now, here's where the difficulty comes in: family members that are still of the same faith. That is where it's okay, sis. I'm just joking. Family members that are of the same faith, and you know that's where the sticky part comes in, because you know more than likely, if you do get married and your husband is associated with that um, particular religion, then what is going to happen? I'll tell you what's going to happen. What's going to happen and transpire is that God is going to get in somehow, and he's still going to be present because everybody else is still going to the kingdom hall, and that is how that happens. So a lot, and I've actually seen men who came from that, and they'll wonder why they dislike their own family members. Well, that's why, because you know that oh, and that God don't like love. I'm just telling y'all that God don't like love. Jehovah is so like, oh God, he lacks luster. He don't like no love. So that's why the family hates each other. It's so sad. Okay, it's so sad, and I don't know why. Um, you know, it just is what it is. Okay. And if you are a witch and you've been tormented and tortured your whole damn life, Because you got them Bible curses on you. That's why I don't incorporate the Bible in my workings. Because all that Bible does is curse witches. Okay. And there's been a lot of debate in the hoodoo community as far as if you should use Bible verses. And so a lot of hoodoo practitioners, they don't consider themselves to be witches. They say that it's a difference. But if you're a witch, that is what can make it dangerous to practice hoodoo. So you have to really, really do your research. Okay. And it doesn't matter if you're black or white. It doesn't matter. I don't know why people are making the difference between that. You can be black and be a witch. And being a witch is very different from being a hoodoo practitioner, because hoodoo is a traditional, it's an American traditional religion, pretty much, which is very, very close to Christianity because they use the Bible, and they use Psalms. And so they, to me, they're basically Christian. And that's, but I think that it still can be dangerous. So a lot of people want to practice hoodoo, but I think hoodoo is, I mean, you know, and I don't, honestly, I don't see the difference between what witches do and what hoodoo practitioners do. We all use jars, we all use chicken feet, we all use bottles, we all use herbs. But the difference is the use of the Bible. You know, that would be the difference. Okay. And so it's that particular hoodoo is basically, it is something that was created by the ancestors, during the times of slavery. Okay. Right. That's my understanding of it. And you know so I don't practice hoodoo. I am I'm well, I changed my title name on the channel to the Heretic, but I practice the way that they say that a lot of white folks practice. I guess I do white people magic, which I don't think it's that, but whatever. Okay. But I still think that I am in agreement with people when they say that the God of the Bible is Yahweh, obviously, right? And Yahweh has an issue with witchcraft as well, or witches. Just not like Jehovah. I mean, it's like extreme hate. Okay. It's extreme hate to the extreme. Okay. All right. Sorry, y'all. I had to do some of my black salt here. And, I'd say that if you are African American, or if you're black, shit, I'd say get into voodoo. I'd rather, if I were gonna learn a system like that, I'd rather get into voodoo. Uh, you know, 'Cause I don't like to use the Bible in my practice, unless I'm burning it or something, or I just you know, and I've actually done Psalms spells and saw results from it. You know, um, but then again, I've also experienced backfiring of those particular spell workings, because you know because I'm a witch. Okay. My spirits, they don't really like the Bible. They don't like me using it. So they kind of turn their nose up at it. And they're like, I ain't really with that. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people are really afraid of that. They're just like, but, you got to think about the whole world. I know that in the Americas, it's heavily, it was heavily pushed upon us and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so, but there's parts of this country that, they've never even heard of it. They're like, huh? You know what I'm saying? So, now I've been wanting to do a little bit of research on Mormons. If I'm not mistaken, Mormons are Christians. Okay. But, none of them have the right to force their beliefs on us and, harass us about it and be, weirdness about it. You know what I'm saying? They don't have the right to do that. But they still do it. But they shouldn't. Okay. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, I'm going to go. I hope y'all enjoyed this discussion. Make sure that y'all hit that thumbs up. I've been meaning to uncover the I've been meaning to unhide my likes. You know what? I can actually do it from my phone, actually. I'm going to the mobile version of YouTube, so I ain't gotta go downstairs and do it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. All right. And then also subscribe. Um, I do provide healing services though for witches. Typically, that's where a lot of your religious trauma is going to come in. That's where it's coming from. Okay. Mm. Okay, that's my cue. I will see y'all later. Okay. All right. Blessings, guys. Bye.